every second Monday. So let me back up. First Monday of every month, we do a company call at our company. So we're a remote company, so it's we can't just hang out in the office and see each other as conveniently as most of those listening to this. But the first Monday of every month, we have a company call, and we do a core value award winner that's nominated by the team for the month prior.
Yeah.
So say, all right, here's this month's core value, who won it. And then people will reply to our teammate who's gathering that intel. And then we recognize that person. And then we all just praise that person, say, oh man, Matt totally, did the core value obsessively creating value.
Welcome to the Kooler Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Kuehlhorn, and I'm excited to have you join me as I interview community members and business leaders from the communities in which I live, work, and serve through my business Kooler Garage Doors. We're going to bring you highlights on characters in our communities. Why? Because community matters, and I want to know more about who is behind our business and leadership in order to understand and support the community fabric that our relationships make up. And collectively, we can build stronger communities that support our lifestyles, our youth, and our health. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Kooler Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Kuehlhorn. Today, I'm sitting down with Ryan Groth. He's the CEO of the Sales Transformation Group. I've been following his content for a minute now. This is the first time we get into a conversation together, and I'm excited. Ryan, thanks for joining.
Thanks, Matt. Glad to be here with you. It's an honor.
Yeah, man. You're beaming in from your home office down in Dallas, I understand, yeah?
Yep. Just got off for a big trip and excited to hang out with you here in Dallas.
Awesome. Appreciate that. I'm excited to get into learning more about the work you do with the Sales Transformation Group. But Ryan, let's start at the way beginning. Where did you grow up?
Grew up a little bit in Southern California until I was about 8. And then we moved to Ocala, Florida, which is in between Gainesville, Gators, and Orlando.
Right on.
And then we moved to Orlando, then Melbourne, and that's where I went to high school, Melbourne, Florida, like Space Coast Stadium, if you think about the rocket ships and Cocoa Beach, that area. And then, played a little bit of pro baseball and played college ball in Oklahoma at Oral Roberts, who's in the Super Regional right now, which is exciting.
Awesome.
And so I covered a little bit of time in Oklahoma and around the country playing pro baseball. But then after that, moved back down to Florida, went to South Florida and stayed there until about 4 years ago. We are no longer Florida residents.
Yeah, right on. I think I did have that in my little bit of research around baseball. Do you play anymore? Are you in any level or rec softball or anything?
Yeah, no. When I was living prior to where we were now, there was an adult men's baseball league, and that was a lot of fun. I got into it. I was looking at the stats every day. How am I doing? We went in, I got into it. I played well, took my hamstring a couple times. It was good. I felt old and, dusted it off and really enjoyed it. So,
yeah, that's awesome. All right, man. Well, the Sales Transformation Group, were you in the trades prior?
I was. My mom and my stepdad, when she remarried, got into the contracting business. I was still in high school, and then I was also in college at the time. And 2008, 2009 is right when I was in school. So they struggled. Their business struggled, although I felt like I'd love to come back and be a part of that business and grow it with them, kind of that second generation owner. But that plan didn't last because their business and unfortunately their marriage as well didn't make it through that time. So that really, marked me, but I also really enjoyed the trades. So shortly thereafter, the pro baseball chapter, I met some amazing people in South Florida. I got connected to a large commercial roofing company who was at one point a national roll-up guy. That didn't work. He bought an older business, turned it around, got it to about 25 million. The recession hit. It happened. He got to about 8 million. He was kind of down to the studs. And then he rebuilt his business through sales and service in the private market versus new construction. Residential and more new construction, just locked in on service in private construction projects. And he built it to about 24.5 million when I met him, and he had started a CRM product for himself. And I got to build that CRM product out to 3 different people he hired. I was the first one that started making sales, and I closed a few hundred contractors on that software. And it was a sales software that manages pipeline goals, closing ratios, analytics, help you manage behaviors, and instill a methodology. And as I was implementing that throughout the country, I saw the big gap that although they like this software, they don't have the culture and the systems and the organization and the environment to support benefiting from a tool like this. So I started coaching and consulting starting 10 years ago now, coaching and consulting contractors. And that large company was kind of like my laboratory, and I was their sales trainer at that large company. And I got to be very connected to the entire thing. And they went from 24 to 50 plus million over 4.5 years, grew every year. And I was just along for the ride, part of the ride, and then also taking that learning and sharing it amongst industry contractors who wanted to grow. And so that's kind of where the coaching hat came on. The muscle to develop was developed to help and develop people and coach and just see things from a tech side, being an athlete, a team guide, environment. It was just like all these really neat ingredients to that I got to put inside of my repertoire to go make an impact. And so I started this company in 2018, and so it's just a little over 5 years now.
Right on. So I'm hearing when you blended a lot of things in there, so it's leveraging tech, but it's also going back to the roots and the real core reasons of why a company is around: values, mission, culture, right?
No.
And I mean, I hear a little bit about Moneyball and really using analytics to drive actions and behaviors.
Yep.
Where did the two blend in for a typical company? I mean, I guess the question's like, bridging tech with culture, and what are some of the challenges? What are some of the opportunities there? I'm just trying to imagine. It's almost like left and right, and you're finding a sweet spot in there.
Yeah. I think that a lot of people don't have culture, but they do tech, and they try to, make tech. They expect tech to change everything. And the reality is, it's not. Like Good to Great, the book by Jim Collins, he talks about technology being an accelerator, not the solution itself. So if you have right people, right seat, right, your focus, you have your BHAG, your headshot concept, all those types of things that, we could talk about from a business standpoint. When that's going, technology is going to accelerate that thing. Most companies, if they're focused on the fundamentals and doing it right, and they want to measure, they care, they want to manage what they can measure, right? They have a plan, they're tracking against plan, they have a process, they're reinforcing the process. It's like we can have all the StatCast analytics we want for a 11-year-old Bad News Bears team. It's not going to make that team a big league team, right?
Yeah.
The analytics is honestly overkill. What makes the players successful at the next level is the fact that they've been doing the fundamentals for years, some of them decades, right? So, what we want to do is, create that culture first.
Hey everybody, this is Luke from Kooler Garage Doors. Just want to take a quick second to talk about our sponsor, Sommar Garage Door Openers. In our opinion, Sommars are the highest quality product on the market today. We recommend them for all of our residential garage door installs because of the variety of features they include, such as Wi-Fi connectivity and safety features such as a fixed chain, which moves along a secure rail to ensure your garage door opens quietly and safely. Click on the link in the description to learn more about Sommar Garage Door Openers.
So on this note of culture, when you're working with folks, maybe for the first time or, after a number of years and seeing different companies, where does one start with emphasis on culture. So if somebody's listening and is like, oh yeah, I know culture is important. I don't know if I've been that intentional about it. Where might we start? What are we looking at? How do we define, maybe we back up and say, how do we define culture?
Yeah, culture is going to be completely dependent upon the leader and the founder and the visionary of the company, right? And so I think that, you just got to look at, if you have a visionary who's a first generation entrepreneur, they grew up a certain way, they're going to express themselves differently. They're going to believe success is different than somebody else who may be third generation, or whatever it may be. You have some people with different values. There's no wrong or right, in my opinion. When we're talking about this, it just needs to be clear and defined. I mean, there's companies that want to dominate and take over the world, and part of me really gets fired up about that because I love to be competitive. There's cultures that are all about getting back and impacting lives and all that stuff, and I get excited about that too. So there's a lot of different ways to define it. But if that owner can take time with his spouse or his partners that are all the above and decide what they want to do with this company and who are we, why do we exist?
Yeah.
And then we have our core values, and we can really keep the core values central in conversations, just even with yourself. It's going to give you a North Star. It's going to give you something to lean on, because when you hire a person, they're going to have their own kind of personal core values they'd actually bring in, whether they have them defined or not. And you're going to have another person and another person and another person and a leader. And if they're all singing from a different sheet of music and how they believe they are, who they are, and their identity and what they believe is important, we're going to have a lot of different things going on, and it's going to be challenging to have everybody rowing the boat in the same direction. So I think that when a leader does that early as possible, they can reinforce that. Because guess what? If they do that earlier, their second or third hire just hears the core values of like, hey, we act with velocity, right? We do things quickly, right? We're a greater purpose company, which means we care more about people than, it's not all about making money. Like if we're hurting people along the way, it's not success, right? We want to be a greater purpose company. These are examples from our company. One is, the third one is do the right thing, even when it's hard. Like I was having a moment with one of my teammates last night. We were talking about, do the right thing. It just spilled out of me. It's like, it's part of who I am. And he goes, and then he added, even when it's hard, and he smiled. And I'm like, that's right. That's our like sub, additional tagline to that core value, because I mean, that stuff goes a long way. So I have three more that we cover, but when your company just hears and they know what that is, and we celebrate it, it starts to become part of who they are. It shines, and you can really scale more effectively and maintain the culture. So the earlier you can define that, the better. I mean, there's no question.
Do you have any tips? Because I've seen, I've done it personally, and I think we've gotten way more real with them. But I've seen it so often. Like there'll be a think tank, and we'll get the core values down, and it might just be single words, and then they go up on the wall, and that's about as far as some people take it. Like what I'm hearing in your core values and what we've got these days is, one of our values is we do the nitty gritty, and it's referencing process, following the system. But that verbiage came from my team. It came from words that we actually use day by day, right? So it's locked in. It's more than what it used to be. Was we follow systems or integrity, right? Like,
sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like, how does somebody take them off the wall and into action?
You gotta reinforce it and have constant meetings about it, and then have your team share where they saw somebody functioning within that core value.
I like that.
Every Monday, every second Monday. So let me back up. First Monday of every month, we do a company call at our company. So we're a remote company, so it's we can't just hang out in the office and see each other as conveniently as most of those listening to this. But the first Monday of every month, we have a company call, and we do a core value award winner that's nominated by the team for the month prior. Yeah. So say, all right, here's this month's core value, who won it. And then people will reply to our teammate who's gathering that intel. And then we recognize that person, and then we all just praise that person, say, oh man, Matt totally, did the core value obsessively creating value. So how did he do that? He created something that we didn't have before for a client, and now it's something we can give more people because it was developed, right? So he created value and just always is thinking about how to make things better. And that's so focused on our customer. And like, Matt did a great job. Oh, cool. And then somebody else does the same thing. And now we're like all praising somebody because of the core value. And then they feel esteemed. And then it's also keeping everybody's mind on that. And so we do that once a month. And then that spills over to our mid-month meeting where I say, hey, here's our core value of the month. We just keep cycling through everything. And it's just, you think about it, there's 6 of them, there's 12 months in a year. We're really only covering a core value twice in a year. When you think about it, that's like not even enough. You're like, that's not even enough.
Yeah.
So that minimally is just one way to do it.
I love that. I love the component around celebrating that and recognizing it in action. Because I ultimately think, our culture is based on how we behave, how we interact with each other.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of times where I'll see that it's not aligned with the words on the wall necessarily. I've seen some companies like that. When you're talking sales, so I'm getting a sense, Ryan, that sales to you is not just about how to overcome objections or not just about in the moment relationships, but it's actually the entire component going to an individual's vision, then core values, culture, and it processes out. Do I have that correct? Is that how you might reference sales? And
yeah, I think sales is like, it's truly part of my identity. I mean, my identity isn't a salesman, but it's part of how I'm made. I feel whenever I saw that sales is a vehicle and a skill to live an abundant life, that's abundant in multiple things, I became ecstatic about sales. I was like, sales is awesome. So it's what happens is I'm now energized by who I am in the environment of selling in an authentic way, caring way, but also an assertive way, a goal-oriented way, a process-focused way, in a way that is kind of overflowing into my sales environment. And then that is sales, because I'm not like, all right, I'm this person, and then over here I'm going to be completely different, and then I'm going to try to wrestle them down and do something they don't want to do. I mean, I love closing deals and helping people overcome things, but at the end of the day, most people are afraid to make decisions. Most people are afraid to fail. But if you have the courage, while they're afraid, to push them into the direction that they ultimately express they want to go and avoid a place that they don't want to be in, then you're actually courageous, and you're actually helping them make a decision that's going to be ultimately life-changing. So having, think about like, you're looking at somebody, let's just use sports as an example, and you're looking at a young man or a young woman, and you're seeing talent, right? And that are messing it up, right? You could sell them, right? Because you want to help on this idea of, let's go down a path of continuing what you're doing and see the consequence of that and what the cost of that, how it's going to affect you. How does that make you feel? Sales, right? Now let's talk about not doing that, and let's talk about where you really want to be. My question to you is, how committed are you to doing what you need to do to get to where you want to be? And are you willing to change everything that you're doing today and alter your current situation to achieve that outcome? Is that something that you're committed to doing? And is this something you want to spend money on? And is this something is it within this timeline right now? Yes or no? So when you think about it from that vantage point, you have all the courage to start to talk to people in a way that's very authoritative, because now your purpose and your identity is not misaligned with what you're able to do. You're actually out there on the front lines, bringing people to a new position. That could be selling a nice roof. That could be, fixing their home up. That could be real estate, that could be selling a high ticket coaching program. That could be whatever. But when the vehicle of your sales career becomes an extension of your desire to help people and win and achieve more, it starts to feel really, actually, it feels energizing to be in sales. And it forms you into an amazing person. So I love sales. I mean, I think about this. I did a LinkedIn post the other day because we all go through challenges. I have a challenge right now I'm dealing with. And I realized that when you're sad and you are depressed and you're trying to sell somebody, dude, I don't care. No one's going to buy from you. No one's going to buy from you. Why would they buy from somebody has negative energy? Because most people buy because they're in a good mood. Most people are like, I'm in a good mood, I'll buy, right? I know if I just have in a good mood, I'm like, yeah, I'll buy something, right? When I'm in a bad mood, I'm not. So when you're a salesperson and that prospect is in a bad mood, but you could turn them into a good mood, you can only do that by you being in a good mood. You're like, I have to consistently lead myself into a positive place because I'm leading people into decisions every day. And I can tell you right now, if I'm not able to do that, they're not going to buy from me.
Yeah.
So like sales is to me a lifestyle. It helps you become a different person. That's why transformation's in my name, because you're transforming yourself on an ongoing basis to live a better life and have more success, whatever it may be. So I thoroughly enjoy sales, and that's kind of what it means to me.
I'm picking up on the transformation piece. So let's shift gears just slightly, because now you got me curious on an individual level. Day by day, Ryan, we're human. We go through our ups and our downs, some of us more than others. But what are some of the daily habits that you've adopted to really spur that management of state, if you will, right? Because that's what you're referencing. Like when we're going to go engage with somebody, if they're going to buy from us, we're actually shifting their state, and they might be buying a state versus a garage door or roof or whatever. So on an individual level, what have you kind of instilled, either from ball days or, in your own transformation? What are some of the bigger pieces that somebody might be able to reference?
That's a big question. I'm going to answer it in a way that I think most people appreciate. I can go super specific and really personal, but I'll probably just keep it more like general. I'd say this, like, I used to have this tagline called "The next level is one belief away." And I would remember that. I'm like, yeah, I'm one belief away. And your state is basically composed of what you're believing at the time, right? Am I believing something that's true? Am I believing something that's not true? Am I believing something that seems impossible? So that if something feels impossible to you, what feeling are you going to have?
Just like, I'm not even going to try, because I like to win. And if I really know that I can't win, then I'm moving on to something else.
It's hopeless. You just, so so there's hopelessness, right? So it's like, what I do is I need to become aware of, like, what am I believing right now? And because that belief's going to shape my environment. If I'm afraid and anxious, and I feel like I'll suddenly just like start to just get stressed. And for me, I take frantic action when I get stressed. I take frantic, massive action, and it's sporadic, and it's full of anxiety. And I do that. I have done that many times, and I still wrestle with that. When I go off the wrong track, that's how I function. Because it's like fight or flight. I'll fight. I'll just fight, but I'll fight fearfully, right? Yeah. That's not good. It doesn't help me like level up and break through and remain consistent. So what I do is I try to take a walk, get my body moving. Exercise is important, but what's even better than even before exercising or during a walk is just kind of, I like to call it tapping in. And, you could call it a higher power or whatever. I have my ways to describe it. That's, pretty common, but like I tap in and I just start to say, okay, this source I'm tapping into, I'm just going to try to let it take over versus like try to like let it go, and then I stop it, and then I like need to figure it out and understand it. I just like let it tap in, because I think a lot of the wisdom and the strat, a lot of it's already inside of you. right? I believe it's in you. So whenever I tap in and I let that source be kind of move me, my thoughts get in sync, the people that I need to think about, that I need to talk to, that they come to mind. If I need, if I'm like, hey, let me tap in and ask the source, like, what should I say to this person? How do I handle this difficult situation? I usually find a way. But whenever I'm like trying to figure it out, what I end up doing is I call people, I bug them, I lean on them, I ask them, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. And then like next thing you know, you're listening to a podcast, and then you make this massive life decision because of somebody you never met told you something, and you heard it in context at that moment, and it just like positioned you, and you just changed your life. And you're like, what? Wait, is this how I'm gonna live? Like grabbing like places from random spots everywhere my whole life, where I'm like, oh, that book. Oh God, okay, hopefully this book works, and I'm just gonna trust it, and then you just do this thing, and that next thing you know, you're just like you're basically all over the place. You're just like, and instead you could just say, those are all good things, and I could listen to those things, but let's tap into this source of power and ask that to take over, and then just say, hey, I don't know the answer. What might be already in the inside of me, and most of the time we're going to know what to do, and it'll influence us. And so I think that's a state that I would like to abide in more. I don't abide in daily. Some days I get distracted, but it could be a few minutes, it could be an hour, but I'd rather spend an hour in that place and then have 3 hours of calls from that place than spend no time in that place and I have a day worth or 2 days worth of action that I take frantically because I didn't get to that place. And then that impacts my sales or my relationships or my leadership and a lot of those things. And so, I
like that. Tapping in. I'm hearing presence, like to become very present. And there's a little unattachment with outcome, even though we're driving towards something,
right?
And yet we're very present in the moment, so that we have our confidence coming from self, not searching outside. It's the inside game.
If you think about the compound effect of that, right? What's the compound effect, or the second, third, fourth order of consequential order when you think about the past or the future every day? You're thinking about the past and the future. So what are you not when you're thinking about the past and the future? What are you not? You're not present, right?
That's right.
So imagine each day you're compounding a decision. There's a compound effect of I'm present. So when you're fully present, you're fully aware, you're fully connected. And when you're doing that over time, your future will inevitably become better, won't it? And then if your future becomes better, then what happens is, a year from now, your past was now better than it was because you were present. And it's amazing. There's a book that I read that talks about this. It's called The Way of the Peaceful Warrior. That's a book that I put in my course as like a must read because it helps you focus on presence. So
yeah. Classic book there. Beautiful, man. I know we could probably geek out on that all day long because there's some alignment there. What are you excited for? What's coming up that in your world that you're excited for?
Yeah, my company, I feel like there's some models lately in the space of business that have been really successful. And I'm feeling really at home within one of those models. That's like, hey, I think we can do that, but for sales or this, right? And when that belief kind of set in with me, I got like a lot of, I felt light and excited and got goosebumps. And I was like, yes, I can believe that. That can happen. And so we're getting closer and closer to seeing that happen in the marketplace where, what we're doing is where I want it to be. And I think people experiencing it the way it's supposed to be experienced and having the results that they're supposed to have. And I think that, the growth of the business and the development of the business getting to this place, gets me excited because we've been chipping away at it for quite a long time. and so I think that I'm most excited about that. I'm also excited for, my family, just on a personal note, my kids are growing and I have 5 kids and, we just have a lot of things they're doing. They're just incredible. So just pretty excited about all that, man.
That's awesome.
Good. Yeah.
How do folks that are listening get in touch with you, and who's Sales Transformation Group for?
So you can get in touch with me on a few ways. My Facebook is kind of weird. It's up and down on friends. But my LinkedIn, you can connect with me there. Just look up Ryan Groth. You'll see this face with a blazer on. And then my Instagram, I changed my my title, my handle to the Sales Athlete. So just look up the Sales Athlete. I put out content pretty regularly.
Awesome.
Sales Transformation Group is for companies that have salespeople, or they want to have salespeople, and they are willing to commit to a system that can be tailored to you, but your desire is to build a great sales organization and a great sales culture that you can grow. So typically we work with companies like manufacturers, suppliers, and contractors, and we typically work with companies who have somewhat of a deal size that's sizable. So like, selling a couple $100 thing, over the phone, like a handyman service typically wouldn't be a good thing, but a good fit for us. But if they have salespeople who are selling jobs to people that are making a decision to buy regularly or accounts and commercial, selling, B2B or like a decent B2C sale, and they need salespeople to be like awesome representations for you, and you want them to crush and you want to win as a team. That's who we work with. We work with companies as small as that, and it's 3 sales guys and an owner who's their sales manager, all the way up to hundreds of salespeople, and we roll up our sleeves with everybody as much as they'll let us. So
yeah, love it. Well, man, I appreciate your time, and thanks for diving into culture and kind of the personal habit state transformation components. We will include your links into our show notes. So for the listener, I definitely encourage you to check out Ryan, check out the Sales Transformation Group, and appreciate you, my friend. Thank you so much.
Man. Great to be with you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to the Kooler Lifestyle Podcast. We count on your subscriptions, your likes, your shares, and I encourage you to do that now. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe, lower right-hand button. If you're on audio, download this, share it, and we look forward to having you on the next one.